A constitutional crisis is brewing as President Trump's administration takes on the Supreme Court over the deployment of National Guard troops in Illinois. The battle for control, Trump versus local authorities. In a bold move, the Trump administration has petitioned the Supreme Court to allow the deployment of National Guard members in Illinois, setting the stage for a legal showdown that could redefine the president's authority to send troops into states against local wishes. The Justice Department is seeking to overturn a lower court order that blocked the federalization and deployment of National Guard troops in Illinois. A U.S. appeals court upheld this decision, allowing the Guard to remain under federal control during ongoing legal proceedings. The legal battle unveiled. Solicitor General D. John Sauer argued that the lower court's order undermines the president's commander-in-chief authority, essentially inserting itself into the military chain of command. He claimed that preventing the deployment of federalized Guard troops undermines Mr. Trump's decision to protect federal immigration officers and government property, putting lives and property at risk. The president's justification. Trump has invoked Title X, a law that allows the federalization of National Guard troops in cases of rebellion or danger of rebellion against the U.S. government. The administration argues that demonstrations in cities like Chicago meet these conditions, justifying the president's actions. Illinois officials, however, argue that while there is violence and the constant threat of violence, regular federal law enforcement forces are not fully hindered in executing U.S. immigration laws. The Chicago conflict. The conflict in Chicago stems from protests outside a processing facility for immigrant detainees in Broadview. President Trump, citing a dangerous situation for federal agencies, exercised his authority to federalize the Illinois National Guard. Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker strongly opposed this move, calling it un-American. The legal back and forth. Illinois and Chicago have sued over the federalization of National Guard members, arguing the directives are unlawful. The Trump administration counters that courts cannot review the president's actions. U.S. District Judge April Perry sided with Illinois, deeming the Department of Homeland Security's assessment of events in Chicago unreliable. A panel of judges on the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Seventh Circuit then blocked the deployment of Guard troops in Illinois temporarily, maintaining this stance in a unanimous decision on Thursday. The judges found that the spirited and occasionally violent protests against the federal government's immigration policies do not constitute a danger of rebellion. They also noted that federal facilities, including the Broadview Processing Center, have remained open and that disruptions have been contained by local, state, and federal authorities. The broader context. This legal battle is part of a larger pattern. President Trump has federalized and deployed National Guard troops to Los Angeles, Portland, and Memphis in response to clashes over his immigration policies. A federal appeals court has allowed the deployment of California's National Guard to Los Angeles, and another bid to deploy troops to Portland is being considered. Trump has also sent National Guard troops to Washington, D.C., and threatened deployment to cities like Baltimore and San Francisco. The controversy. And here's where it gets controversial. Does the president have the right to deploy National Guard troops in states against the wishes of local authorities? What constitutes a danger of rebellion? And who should have the final say in such matters? These questions are at the heart of this legal battle, and they have far-reaching implications for the balance of power between the federal government and the states. What's your take on this? Do you think the president should have the authority to deploy troops in states without local consent? Share your thoughts in the comments below.